Okay, hello, good evening. Welcome to H3. My name is Alan Friesen-Acapellis, and with me is Scott Sweetman. How you doing there, Scott?
I'm doing great. It's sunny out. There's just a nice little breeze that's sort of playing through the window. Beautiful. Love
Beautiful,
it.
beautiful.
Yeah,
We were
exactly.
planning on having a guest tonight, but we're going to defer on that because we've got an exciting topic, right, Scott?
We do. Really exciting. It's, sort of a mix of things we've talked about before, but it's an interesting combination of those things. And we're going to talk about longevity and the effects of AI, genomics, and personalized medicine, and how that's um, you know, affecting the direction those things are heading.
I can't wait. Let's go. Tell us
Yeah,
more.
it's pretty interesting stuff. So, um, what kind of brings us here is there's a lot of things going on, and that our show is about health and happiness and hope and wellness in the world. And there's a lot of people that are struggling for existence. We're promoting, and rightly so, living wage and things like that. But as people live longer, there's also the desire to live healthier, right?
Sure.
So, the wages of our sins, when we only lived to, when 20 was middle age, that wasn't such a big deal. But now that the longevity is certainly in developed countries is getting longer, then health and wellness tie into that in much more extreme cases. So my point is that longevity is becoming a concern and a topic for much younger people. It used
Mhm.
to be that people didn't really start talking about longevity or lifespan until they at least were in middle age, where now we're seeing people in their, mid 20s to early 30s really making some substantial life decisions to affect the longevity and the health and wellness
Well,
of
I may be mistaken about this, Scott, but I thought I read recently like that for the first time in like 200 years, the lifespan is actually going to start to reduce a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Because of the diabetes epidemic, because of obesity, because of the proliferation of cancers and those kind of things. Is that what your research found
It,
as
it,
well?
it is. That's true. Um, Part of that is that we hit, when with the advent of some basic antibiotics, human life was extended greatly. And
Mhm.
that's oversimplification.
And wait a
But
minute, I gotta interject one thing. I said 200 years. That's not true. In the last 80 years, like we've been going, the lifespan's going up and up and up, and now it's like it's might be going down. Carry on.
yeah, no, there's two things that really affect that. Then that research has come up in a lot of the topics for our show. One is child infant mortality is incredibly low statistically in almost all countries, not just, I mean, it's higher in underdeveloped countries, but still, I mean, lower, pardon me, but still higher than 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 200 years ago, right? And then the other thing that's greatly affected it is the prevalence of low-cost generic antibiotics, penicillin and sulfa being the two big ones, right? That
Mhm.
for a long time. I know when I was a kid, basically whenever you were sick, they automatically prescribed an antibiotic and whatever else you needed. It was just sort of like taking aspirin. Oh, here's your antibiotics. Now see you, later. And of course, that caused a problem. We've basically run that horse to the limit. And MRSA, which I had myself when I came out of coma, and there's more and more organisms that are becoming resilient to the antibiotics that we currently use. And
Mhm.
so we're seeing a drop in their ability to protect us from basic things like infection, etc.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So
So the
yeah, I
overuse
think
of
that
it, it was
I think we're going to see. There's been a lot of research put into new types of antibiotics. Some of that research money, some of it that's arguable, has been eaten up by genetic recombination research. COVID put a lot of money into that area, retro DNA and that type of technology. So before COVID, and I'm always amazed because cancer, all the money in years we've been studying cancer, and we've certainly put a dent on it and made people's lives more comfortable and longer who are diagnosed with cancer, but we haven't cured it, obviously. So there's just some things that I don't think we can comfortably say, oh, well, a few more years, a few more $1 trillion, and we'll have that sucker fixed, right? So, but anyway, we were focusing a lot on antibiotics. I'm talking about globally developing new strains of antibiotics, looking at new biologicals in the rainforest and other untapped areas. That got interrupted a lot by the global research into the COVID-19 virus. And consequently, I think we are going to see a decrease in the lifespan, particularly in developed countries that have relied so heavily on, cheap, effective antibiotics and other types of medicine that have really run their course and that have become ineffective. So, yeah, but we are seeing younger and younger people concerned about longevity. And there's a lot of things motivating that. I think, as you said, the news that we are going to be living less than in the past, which is shocking. People always assumed we would just keep going up and up and up, right?
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19, perfectly healthy people were, passing away in a very short period of time. And modern medicine wasn't able to really slow that down in a lot of ways. Everything rested on prevention rather than cure, right? So what comes out of that is, I think, and what the research shows, more and more interest, more and more money, more and more research being put into longevity, but also wellness tied with that. Not just living longer, but being able to maintain a certain standard of wellness during that longevity. What
You
do you
bet.
think about that, Alan?
Well, super important, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would take the bargain to say, hey, you can live 20 years longer, but you're going to be in pain and miserable and can't do anything you enjoy, right? Who would sign up for that? I don't know of anybody, right? It makes no sense.
Well, almost since, before recorded history, humankind has sort of always had the stories like the vampire, the whole vampire tradition is that when you live forever, your life is usually a mess, right?
Mm,
There's, so that immortal character is usually a tragic character, right?
hmm
Because we lose so much if there's no time limit on, there's no motivation, there's no, we leave everyone else behind, all sorts of things. So it's definitely interesting. But we're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about genomics. And I don't know why I have trouble saying that. I don't know why it sticks in my head. The study of genetic research and manipulation of genes in medicine, and then longevity science, which is some really interesting stuff there that you or me, I hadn't seen it before. So hopefully it'll be interesting to our viewers as well. So AI, lots about AI going on. You and I run into AI probably 3-4 times a week, just an ordinary kind of.
Yeah, I would say that'd be about right. Yeah.
Yeah, our colleague and friend Michelle is going to be doing a PhD thesis on the development of HI and our AI and how the research into that is affected a lot by gender and politics and economics and how all of those things are affecting how AI is being developed and how it's being applied. But in the field of medicine, it's increasingly being used for diagnostics. And I was really interested to hear, and let me know if you've heard of these, that X-rays, MRIs, basically all types of medical imaging have been tested for AI diagnostics. Google Health's AI model, their system, can detect breast cancer and mammograms with greater accuracy than a doctor not using AI Google's health model, which is really interesting. Dermatology, this one blew me away. Dermatology, there's now AI algorithms that can help identify skin cancer with a level of competence equal to that of a highly experienced and specialized dermatologist.
Wow. I
Right?
did not know that. I knew about the MRI, like reading the MRIs or analyzing the MRIs and making good judgments on it that AI could do, like superior to almost any human kind of a thing, is my
Mhm.
understanding. But I did not know that about the dermatology. That's a very interesting.
Yeah, when I was looking into this, we're only limited to 30 minutes, but boy, we could do like a month's worth of shows just on how AI is being applied to medical imaging.
Hmm.
It's, there's concerns, and we can certainly talk about those. But that idea of a second opinion, where because humans get tired, we get our eyes get sore, we're having a bad day, we skip breakfast, we're hungover. Humans are frail, and to have a tool that suffers none of those things, that never gets a headache, that never has tired eyes, to back up doctors to look at this information and to diagnose what in many cases is directly affecting longevity
Hmm.
and certainly affecting health and wellness or the quality of life is a boon, and it's being applied in many areas. Go ahead, Al. Sorry.
No, no, I just,
Oh,
interesting. Carry
yeah.
on.
EHRs. I'd never heard that word before. Electronic health records.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah. So these can be anything. I know that Alberta Health has a program called, what's it called? Do you remember? My File, My.
I don't know. I'm on it, but what's
Yeah.
it
Well,
called?
it's really interesting because I can go take a test, and I usually get the information before my doctor does.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it
Through
just
that.
My Health?
Yeah, maybe it's called My Health.
I think so.
I don't have
Yeah.
my phone here, but yeah. Anyway, Apple phones all have a really complex form of, and I'm sure all the other ones do too. Electronic health records, right? Like my phone records my blood pressure and how much I sleep, and it takes an EKG a couple of times a day, and mine's not a fancy; it's just a regular kind of iPhone or iWatch with an iPhone. Anyway, the DeepMind system, which I think DeepMind is originally Microsoft, the AI in DeepMind, it has been studied, and it can predict acute kidney injury 48 hours before it goes into failure.
Really? Wow, that's impressive.
And this is with confident results. So
Hmm.
this is when, like when I was in coma, I was in respiratory failure, but they said the renal system is going to go next, which is your kidneys, right? That was what they were worried about. And they were always testing my renal system because they were very worried that once that went, I had between 28 and 48 hours before there wasn't much they could do about it, right? So
Hmm.
I know from my personal experience that acute kidney failure can be a big deal, and being able to predict that is extremely important in that critical care condition. So
No kidding. And you said 2 days prior, 48
48
hours.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
And this is not from a few samples. This is from a very large sample, and a lot of big hospitals in the US and in Canada do have studies that are going on where doctors analyze this information, and then AIs are given the opportunity. Some of them to assist, some of them are in development mode. Like I said, the big three, Microsoft, Google, and Elon Musk, through his various endeavors, are spending a lot of. And I didn't know that Elon Musk was one of the founders of OpenAI.
I
Uh,
did not either.
yeah, recently he's suing them because they were bound by a not-for-profit model, but they very quickly fired everyone on the board that was originally there and put other people in place, and became a for-profit organization by licensing the open AI to Microsoft. It's going on right now. It's very interesting for people that are interested in how AI is being managed in our society. But
Hmm.
those big super corporations are currently all trying to field unique models of AI and artificial intelligence. So the next thing that I looked at in comparison was, and I'm reading this word because I don't know why, but it freaks me out. Genomics. Am I getting that right? Genomics?
I believe so. Genomics. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
how it's pronounced. Yeah.
And this is incredible. I went down the rabbit hole in this one, man. And what it is, it's the personalized treatment of medicine by applying genetic testing markers for your specific organism body to everything from diet to types of medicine to treatment plans, et cetera, et cetera. And even pets. Like if you go online, once you start looking at this, you can send, a DNA test away for your dog, your cat, your bird. I'm not kidding. Reptiles as well. And they can have the same test done about not only their ancestral makeup, but what types of medicine is best, what types of food is best. But in people, let's get back to people. Have you heard of BRCA testing?
What does that acronym stand for?
Well, I never actually got to what it stands for, but it is the personalized cancer therapy where they sequence the DNA and then by that information, they choose the specific treatment, drugs, whatever, to treat breast cancer. And it's incredibly effective compared to sort of the shotgun approach of, here, we're going to do this many weeks of chemotherapy. If it doesn't, rectify itself, then we'll try surgery. And, it's, and the
BRCA,
result,
you said, right?
BRCA, yeah. And I'm sorry, I even looked again before we came online, and it keeps telling me what the meaning is. But I don't think it actually stands for like BRCA. As close as I come, it stands for breast cancer testing, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure someone will email us and tell us what it is.
Great. Bring it on. Yeah.
But yeah, so based on the patient's genetic profile, and the problem with breast cancer is, of course, it is hereditary, or the risk is higher. So, in my case, Fleur's mother passed away from breast cancer. Fleur and her sister have both been clear, but it has been known to skip a generation. So I have 2 daughters, so they get monitored closely. And this type of testing could be a great indicator at their risk level. And if they were to be diagnosed with breast cancer, pinpoint a treatment, an earlier treatment that was tailored for their specific genetic makeup.
Nice.
Pretty amazing stuff, right?
I didn't know that about that, but as you know, we have some insurance companies that we work with that have the pharmacogenomic testing, which really helps to isolate which drugs are going to be most effective, especially with people suffering from mental health type challenges, right? That they can, instead of, well, try this one for 8 months and try this one for a year, and it's like get it way narrowed down in terms of here's the right drug according to your genetic makeup that's going to do its best work for you, right, to recover from this. So
well, and that's really interesting. And I can give you other examples, but I don't want to close other people's medical histories. But when I had the bacteria, the infection in my lungs, they actually they had a list of the most likely to work, and they just worked through them. And when I finally woke up and my infection level was still quite high, the doctors were very concerned. I was down to only 6 more antibiotics they could try, and I got down to 4 until they decided to use what they called a drug of last resort, which I don't know what that was, but all my hair fell out, and it was brutal. And they did that twice, and that's what finally leveled everything back out. But they were I thought they were kidding when they came in, and they said, oh, you have 6 more chances. And I'm like, it's like 9 lives. What are we talking about here? And they're like, no, these are the antibiotics we could use. This is the list. And they showed me this spreadsheet. And they're like, we have tried every one of these, like you said, for that 4 months. They just went through and tried this one, nope. Tried this one, nope. Tried this one, nope. Some improvement, but nope. And
Wow.
yeah, so something that could have given them a heads up on that would have been, in terms of cost, in terms not just my health, but because I know the money, the time of the doctors and the nurses and the technicians that went into saving me was huge, right?
Sure.
Like anything that could have reduced the amount of resource drain, and I don't want to say it negatively, but the amount of resources that were needed for me, if that could have been reduced, then other people could have been helped or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I have some very personal reasons for thinking that anything that will help them avoid that wait and see, give them this and wait and see, give them this and wait and see, which, as is pretty standard practice for medication. If we can avoid that, the whole system will get better.
Yeah. Makes good sense. Yeah.
This one is going to blow you away, my friend.
Ooh,
Probably
let's
know
hear it.
all about it. Nutrigenomics.
Nutrigenomics. All right.
This is a huge field. It's expanding like wildfire. We should buy stocks in this. This is the field where nutrition and genomics meet. And there's some very big companies into this. Nutrigenomics is actually the name of, with an X, is the name of one of the big companies. And they provide genetic testing to provide personalized nutrition advice based on your DNA.
Wow.
So, you loaned me a book, Eat Right for Your Type, stuff like that. Yep. They're taking this to the next level, and they're saying, you know what? We're going to test your DNA. We're going to sequence that sucker, and we're going to help you choose the right foods for your individual genetic makeup.
Wow.
To help prevent diseases, to improve your overall health, and to reduce, obesity, diabetes, all of these things.
Wow.
Yeah. And I looked, this test is $396 US. So that's a lot of money. I can't afford it. Somebody wants to sponsor me, I'll take the test and tell you how it works out. But yeah, not outrageous in terms of modern medicine, right? Like Ozempic, which is quite a hot medicine these days, is about, in Canada, $400 to $500 a month if you're paying for it on your own. Mm-hmm. So, for a genetic test like this to come in at around $400 US, what is that Canadian? 600? 1,000?
Yeah. 560, I think, something like that. But yeah, quite a bit more.
So, but yeah, if you search the word nutrigenomics, and you will be blown away by the scope of how quickly this has exploded, because nutrition, everyone is getting more and more aware how the old adage, we are what we eat, literally. This is something that's really dear to your heart in terms of what you put into your body and how your body reacts to it. This is the ultimate customized diet.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
I wonder if there's a lot of variance between, like, as an example, for Ayurvedic medicine, there's 3 body types, right?
Right.
So I wonder if that, this nutrigenomics would find that there's like kind of 3 models of different nutritional type values that are new choices that kind of optimize people's health. Like, I wonder if it kind of, Ayurveda is ancient wisdom, but I wonder if modern science in this regard would come up with similar conclusions. Like, I can't see how there's going to be, there's, what is there, 8 billion people on the planet? There's not going to be 8 billion diets, right? There's not, there's going to be somewhat less than that. So
I would agree with that. But, I was really surprised when I went to Japan. My students kept telling me that Westerners and Japanese people digested food differently. And I thought, yeah, okay, because there's a lot of I don't want to say prejudice, but there's a lot of in Japan there's a sense that the Japanese are the best people and the best at many things, right? They're very strong awareness of their culture and their heritage and their genetics. And I ended up working with a lot of doctors before I got sick. And it turns out that it's true. We have a different length of intestine. And I can't remember if it's the large intestine and the small intestine. And this is not something I made up. This was confirmed by one of the doctors, was like the world's fourth or fifth leading specialist in smooth muscle, which is like your throat and other areas in your body. And he's like, yeah, no, it's true. People of Asian or Japanese descent actually have a physical difference in their intestine that allows us, and I can't remember whether it digests vegetables better or meat better, or I think vegetables better,
Hmm,
and whatever, ours were more adapted to digesting meat or protein, animal protein better.
interesting.
Uh, yeah. And the doctor said, well, think about it, for however many tens of thousands of years, we've been living on these little islands eating, fish and rice and, seaweed and things like that, where, you come from Europe where people ate, deer, elk, then later beef. And so, different types of protein, different types of diet, we're going to evolve differently.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So anyway, I don't know how much all of that's true, but a Japanese doctor, or more than one, said it was true, so I'm willing to accept it. And my
So
point being is that I do think that there's probably more difference in us than we think, but I would agree with you that there's probably not 8 billion different versions of the diet, but who knows, right?
I
We
wonder
are ultimately unique, right?
I wonder if I never heard this before. It's very interesting to me. I wonder if there's also a difference in terms of your how long your how yeah, the length of your intestines versus the height of the human. Like, is
Yeah.
there a relationship between that too?
Yeah, yeah, could be. I know that, for example, there's an enzyme that many Asian people and Aboriginal people are missing to break down alcohol. And I
Mm,
know in Japan, many young people died of alcohol overdose in their first year because new hires were all taken out, and it was tradition to drink a whole bunch of alcohol, and some of them couldn't break down the alcohol. Like if you went out with like we work for large companies there, so there might be 40 people drinking, and there would be 10-20% that immediately, as soon as they had a drink, would go bright red in the face, and you could tell their body was not reacting at all well to the alcohol. And usually there was a manager or somebody that said, yeah, no, don't drink anymore, you know you're there's a Japanese word for it, but basically you're missing this enzyme. And it's really uncommon for Westerners not to have this enzyme, but it's
mm,
quite common for people of Asian descent or Aboriginal descent to not have this enzyme.
interesting.
Again, I didn't know anything about that. So
No. I mean, no, that's very interesting.
yeah. So anyway, we only got a couple minutes here, but um, all of these things are coming together, and there's a lot of trials going into this about how these things can be used to mitigate the aging process. And one that's really interesting. Have you ever heard of a drug called metformin?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you? I've never heard of it before. What do
Well,
you
I
know?
know that some longevity experts, it's a drug for diabetes,
Yeah.
but some medical longevity experts suggest that anybody should take it, or many people can take it in terms of something that extends your life by managing your blood sugars better. Right? Is my understanding of it.
Yeah,
That's
no,
real.
you're right on the money, brother. It
Okay.
the people that the proponents of this says it mimics calorie reduced diets, right? Like it's
Right.
been known for some time that calorie reduced diets in general, I mean, there's
Yes.
problems, but in a general way, do extend longevity.
Yes.
That could be another way of saying that people like me with too much body fat don't live quite as long as people with less. But
Right.
however, correlation, causation, all that works out. There is a lot of evidence that lower calorie intake does add to longevity, right? Higher calorie diets, globally tend to lower longevity or complicate health and wellness and those things. So yeah, metformin, and I don't know how they came up with this, is being used by doctors and proponents. And I went online and looked, and there's lots of chat groups and other things that you can join. And people are taking metformin not for diabetic reasons, but to extend their life and their health and wellness and avoid getting sick. And it's interesting. Some of them report kidney problems and they go off it right away. And other people have been taking it for years and say they've experienced no problems. So
Yeah, I hear that I heard it and I wasn't going to try it just because I had heard that, and I don't like feel I need to try it, but there was a lot of like indigestion problems and stomach problems related to taking that on a regular basis, kind of a thing, right? And if you're diabetic, well, then you have to kind of live with those. But if you're not, like, why would you want to?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. The next one, I want to make sure we get this in, is Senolix, Senollytics.
Okay, tell
It's
us
a
more.
class of drugs designed to target and eliminate sentient cells.
Oh,
SENESCENT. I pronounce that sentient.
okay.
And these are cells that have stopped dividing, and they contribute because they've stopped dividing. They're no longer renewing, and so they contribute to aging and age-related diseases.
Hmm.
So we're in the early stages on this one, but research shows that by using this drug that targets and eliminates these dead weight cells that are no longer regenerating by dividing and becoming new again, extends healthy lifespan. Not just lifespan, but healthy lifespan. Because
Interesting.
having all of these cells that are no longer dividing causes illness and problems in a otherwise healthy system.
Hmm. Wow,
Pretty interesting stuff.
it is interesting. I've never heard that before. Good one there, Scott.
Yeah, this show sort of came together out of a bunch of different research, and when I looked at it, it was, there's some really interesting stuff going on. But
Very much so.
there's concerns, right? And the concerns is, people get worried about all the information Facebook has on them, or Instagram has on them, or Shoppers Drug Mart has on them. Sorry, I don't want to get sued by Shoppers Drug Mart. I just pulled that name out of my head. But companies, right? Like there's the story about how the drugstore knew the daughter was pregnant before the dad did by what she was buying, so they were sending her coupons for diapers and things, and he was mad and like, why are you sending my daughter all the, my 16-year-old daughter all these things? Well, because the marketing research showed that she was pregnant. She was. Anyway, probably not a true story, but could be. Anyway, imagine if people had this detailed information and got a hold of it, right? So we're talking about information about you at the genetic level.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so there's a lot of ethics concerns about data privacy when we're individually mapping our genomes. And, somebody wanted to do you harm, knowing that information could be extremely beneficial to helping you, but also to hurting you if that was somebody's desire. So there's a lot of questions right now. Part of it comes, and this, I didn't know this, look it up. Golden State Killer. A suspect was identified using genetic genealogy, highlighting the potential for genetic data as a way so he submitted his DNA for one of these tests, and it happened to come up in the control group or whatever it was for this search for a killer, and they caught him because of him submitting his DNA to what he thought was just an ordinary, I didn't read the whole thing, but the point is that this information may not be used the way you intended it to be used. I mean, in this case, it's not a killer, so
yeah.
plus, plus, plus.
Cool.
Anyway, once again, we're a little bit past our time, but do you want to sum up what we've talked about tonight, Al?
Well, I think it was very fascinating. I learned a lot tonight, and I thank you for that, Scott. So I get your connection between IA and genomics, and then how those are being used in terms of tailoring, perhaps to the individual human being, the
Mhm.
right treatment, the right protocol, the right nutrition for them to live their best lives. I think that's fascinating stuff. I kind of personally, I'm not sure if we need that level of detail to have good lives. Like, I mean, some of this is, as you've identified, that eating less sometimes is very valuable in terms of your health and well-being, having influence on your microbiome, like in terms of what you're putting in, and if you're using fermented foods and that kind of thing, the practice of fasting, the practices of more, consuming more plants, especially plants that have no toxicity to them, like they don't have any chemicals that are part of those plants. Those are things that anybody can do without taking any test, and to their benefit, right? But those technology is another way as well, of course. So yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think you've encapsulated extremely well, Alan. And as always, it's there. All of these things sound fantastic, and they are. But you could just go back through a few months of our show and get 15 ways to improve your health with just eating less, eating better, doing a little exercise, spending some time inside your own head and inside your own body, calming yourself and centering yourself. So yeah, maybe ultimately the future is where those things meet,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Well,
that's
Scott,
for another show.
for another show. Take us on home tonight.
From my good friend Alan Friesen, the acapellist, and myself, Scott Sweetman, thank you for joining us on H3. And we will see you next week, possibly with a guest
Not
right
next week,
here.
week following, two
Oh,
weeks from.
right. Yes. Good catch, brother. Next week, there will be no show. But the week after that, we may have a guest. So don't tune in next week. Tune in the week after that. And until then, stay well, full of hope, health, and happiness.
Keep well. Get them at